Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about why don't we hear from politicians until election time. We're just going to talk just a little bit about it. This show should only be but a few minutes, but that was something that that a lot of people have been talking about over the whole election. Why don't we hear from them? And there was this big thing. Why do I have to choose which party? So we have a special guest. Her name is Marilyn Hemingway. She can kind of help us shed some light on some things. And I want to talk about certain responsibilities that we have as engaged citizens and take responsibility for politics and learning about it. Okay. So first thing that I want to address are the winners, especially in Georgetown County, in overall in our state. In country as a whole. So whether a candidate won that you didn't particularly like, guess what? They already have been elected by the people, the majority of the people. So we have to respect those people and at least try to work with them to change the way things are so that we can all benefit from it. There is going to be for racial equality, for environmental rehabs, in all different facets of our life, our everyday life. So just keep that in mind. So what we're going to do first is show people or tell people, why don't you hear from politicians? So first of all, what most people don't know is that we do hear from politicians, but it's on a platform that most people probably are not going to go to in order to see what's going on. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with the politicians and the people. So while they are working, we're probably on social media. So we take it for granted that, man, 10 or 15 years ago, people were not on social media like they are now. So where you should go for information about what a particular candidate has been doing currently and in the past, you should be able to go to SC for South Carolina. If you live in South Carolina, is scvotes.org. And I'm actually going to share that with you. And that's where all the information that you need to know about every single county overall, all that information is going to be there. So I want to actually share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. I want to show you this website. And we actually have been promoting this website since last week because have been getting a lot of phone calls. Ebony, I don't know who to vote for. How do I know who to vote for? And it's simple. Go to scvotes.org and you can see all different kind of information about here in South Carolina, about getting voters registration, to find where your the polling place. So for example, we can even go on and find about the results from last night. In my opinion, I think the website is a little tricky to navigate. So you can go here and then select the county that you are in. It looks like the website is running just a little bit slow. Hold on, let me go and select the county. So here you have the map, all the counties in South Carolina. And you can look at this report and see who won in these different seats, which candidates won. Now, the part that I think is kind of disappointing is if you look all the way to the right and it says the voter turnout right here to the right. So look at the amount of registered voters in South Carolina, or excuse me, in Georgetown, in this particular county. So you have 44,652 registered voters. Now look above that and look at how many ballots were actually cast. So above that in the green, it shows you that only 30.12% of everybody voted. And to me, that's sort of sad. Everybody has their reasons for why they do and don't vote, but just look at only less than a third of the people voted. 13,451 people out of 44,652 people actually voted. And that's something to note. But on this particular website, and I'm going to pull it back up again, that is scvotes.org, scvotes.org. That's where I am. When you go back to this site, not only are you able to look up the results, you are also able to go back up top. Let me go back to the beginning. All right. You're able to also look up the candidates. Okay. There's a candidate tracking system. There's a filing information for candidates, campaign finance and ethics, and political parties. You're able to learn about all those things, and you don't have to take your friend's word for it about who's the best or this, that, and the third. You're able to go on there and get real information about the candidates and people who you are voting for, and that's so important. For us to consider. So when these candidates do things, they put that information out on this website. And in my opinion, that's great, but most people are probably not going to pick up a book and read. And it's sort of like that's what's going on now in SC Votes. Most people are probably going to run to social media. So I think that candidates probably, and in my opinion, they probably would want to make sure that when they start doing things in the community, start pushing for different improvements. Like, for example, the coroner, I think one of the things that he wanted to do was um, get Georgetown to get a morgue. Most people didn't even realize we don't have a morgue. The new treasurer, she said she wanted to make sure that customer relationship is improved by getting rid of the automated system and you speaking to a live person. So you wouldn't know those things unless you actually find out exactly what that person's intentions are. And not only that, so now once they get into place, we also need to hold them accountable. So what I would like to do is bring on Miss Marilyn Hemingway. um, I am a fan of hers. She knows so much. And so I learned a lot from her. One of the questions was, why do we have to choose a one party, Democrat or Republican? Why can't I vote for some people on the other ticket? And I think that she explains that the best. So I'm just going to bring her on. Good evening, Miss Marilyn.
Hi,
Miss
Ebony. How are
Marilyn,
you?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for inviting
So
me.
you are welcome. So can you tell everybody why? Why do we have to pick a party during the primaries?
Because South Carolina has open primaries, which means when you walk in the door on primary day, they're going to ask you a question. Do you want to vote Republican or do you want to vote Democrat? And most people don't realize where the confusion comes in is political parties are actually private organizations, and the candidates actually pay a filing fee to the state that helps to pay for the primaries and other expenses. But we also pay our taxes so that the state can operate the primary. So think of the state has the logistical side of it. They don't have anything to do with the candidates and picking them or anything. That's our right to do that. So with the open primary, when you walk in there and they ask you, do you want to vote Republican? Do you want to vote Democrat? You select which party you want to vote in, and then you vote on the candidates. Where I also saw on Facebook where a lot of people were posting about, well, why the candidate I was expecting to see was not on the ballot. And the reason
Right.
you didn't see that candidate is because they didn't have competition. You only have a primary if there are multiple candidates running for the same seat. And in a lot of
Right.
seats, either did not have a candidate from that particular party, so that
Like
it
the
was empty,
Democrats,
or say that again.
like the Democrats is like they didn't have
Yeah,
certain.
you saw it in Georgetown. You saw it more with the Democratic side because either we had one candidate, so there was no reason for a primary because they're the presumed nominee, or you
Okay.
didn't have a candidate at all, so
Okay.
there was no one running. Yeah,
Okay. So
and
um,
that's what a lot of people were running into.
that will okay. I got you. So what do people need to do to learn more about how our system works?
How the political system works.
Yes.
Actually, I should say how the election system works.
Okay.
One, they need to become more engaged citizens, and one of the ways you can do that is to maybe go to poll clerk or poll manager training. And I understand in Georgetown they're going to have a training in September, and I encourage people to call the election commission and indicate that they want to be a poll clerk, poll manager, go through the training, and then you can also serve on election day. And that will actually is a good way of learning the mechanics of our election system, how the machines work, how people sign in, why you sign in a certain way. The poll
Right.
clerks and poll managers actually take an oath. They take an oath at the beginning of the day to promise to run fair and clean elections, and that to ensure that every eligible voter has a right to vote. And that's very important to know. So people need to really just get educated about the mechanics of voting. And the easiest way to do that is go through poll clerk and poll manager training. Now on the political side of it, because the election mechanics, that's different from the political system. The political system, now you're getting into parties and candidates. And the best
Okay.
way to learn that is one, if you think you have certain leanings, like conservative leanings, liberal leanings, or however you view the parties, then you need to start attending party meetings, party functions, and learn how the parties function. All right. And
Okay.
most parties have monthly meetings. They even have different groups. There may be like the women's group under each party, the caucus, like there might be a black caucus or a rural caucus or LGBTQ caucus, the farmers caucus. All of those have different interests, but they're under the heading of that particular Democratic Party. So you need to get involved. That's
Okay.
another way. And I know
Right.
people kind of complain about the parties, but especially yesterday during the primary day, all day I see these people were posting stuff. Why isn't this candidate here? Why isn't this happening? And a lot of it came down from lack of knowledge. But
Right.
and so and I actually, if anybody saw my posting, I actually called out the South Carolina Democratic Party because they need to be more responsible in educating people about the mechanics of voting.
Right.
But
Okay.
with that said, the flip side of that is the voters need to be just as responsible about stepping up and learning about the system. That
That's
works both
exact.
ways.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and that's why I have decided that I actually am not just going to encourage people to register and to vote. I am going to encourage people to get educated, get informed, get engaged as a citizen, then register and vote. Because once you get informed and educated about the policies and issues and where each party stands, you are going to make that decision to get registered and to vote
Absolutely.
because you will
Absolutely.
understand that the vote is your power, but the knowledge makes you dangerous.
That's
All right.
true.
The
That
knowledge
is
makes you
so true.
dangerous to the status quo. And you really saw that in action yesterday because a lot of people simply did not know the mechanics of voting.
So basically, what you are saying is people who are more involved in what's going on are more likely to run for certain
Well,
seats. Okay.
eventually people who are engaged and informed tend to be more consistent voters.
Got
Okay,
you.
that's the key. More consistent voters. And then people who tend to be engaged and informed tend to be more involved in their community and then you tend to have people rise up and run for office.
I got
Most
you.
and honestly, do you really want somebody to just decide one day I'm going to run for office? Think
Nope.
about that. Because where do they stand on the issues and policy that impact your life?
Right.
And
That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. So you
So,
want informed elected officials, and that's part of the problem is we do not have informed elected officials.
so for anyone out there that that you hear, well, you know what? Why don't we hear from these politicians until it's time to vote? What would you tell them?
Well, that also goes back to holding your elected officials accountable, or people who want to run accountable. But it also goes back, okay, so yeah, holding them accountable. Are they having town hall meetings? Are they even having one-on-one meetings? We need to have imaginative, innovative elected officials who think out of the box. And right now, Zoom is available for free. There are different software out there where you could have meetings. Why? Ask your elected officials. Why are you not having an online town hall meeting?
Right.
Why are you not having a city council meeting online or a county council meeting online? That's their job. That's what they should be doing, informing the people they report to. And too often, as citizens, we give up our power by not holding our elected officials accountable. They are public servants, they report to the people.
So how do
So we
people hold
need
them
to,
accountable? How do people uh in the most how people are most effective in making sure that they are accountable?
well, and the most basic bottom line, holding them accountable, is eventually, if they're not receptive to the people who elect them, you will kick them out of office. That's the bottom line. But prior to that, other ways you can hold them accountable is if you pick up the phone or email them, you should get some kind of response. You should be able to meet with your officials. I don't care if they're local, state, or federal. It may be a little bit harder to get to the federal because you got to travel to DC or to their office because they're not going to be right down the street. But you have opportunities. You could go sit and talk with them, or at least their staff. All right, and that's the same way on the state level. You may have to schedule an appointment, but they cannot see you. You're the boss. And then on the local level, it really gets even closer because you might see them in the grocery store.
Right.
You might be able to go to their office down the street, or meet them for coffee someplace, or if they have a town hall meeting. I mean, you might even attend church with them. And
Right.
and and when you decide to step up as a public servant, that should be one of your expectations, that you need to keep the people informed. Unfortunately, because we don't hold them accountable, in the sense that, okay, if I don't hear from you after 10 times for whatever reason, outreach I did, you let other people know. Go on social media and say, I tried to reach my elected official 10 times by email, phone, text, etc., and I didn't get any response. What's up with that? That's
Okay.
transparency. That's holding people accountable. Guess what? They're gonna respond then.
Right.
So we have to be engaged citizens. We have to be informed citizens and engage so that we do what we're supposed to do and be the boss. You know,
Absolutely.
and
So,
they are not the boss of us. They are public servants
so
who
what do you
run
think? So what do you,
to help us. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. What do you think? I think it's a little bit of lag in time, but long story, what do you think is the best way that elected officials should keep the public informed about what they're doing?
Well,
So
right now,
people,
because the coronavirus, the best way is to go online and have social media. But we also have to keep in mind our different demographics. We have older voters who may not be that comfortable with online social media. They may not have access to computers. You could send postcards. Elected officials can drop postcards. They could do phone calls. You could do conference calls now. You could get a hold of your constituents' phone number and do a conference call sitting at home with your constituencies. There are different ways that can be done to outreach to folks, and I think as engaged citizens, as voters, we need to demand our elected officials do more with that. So there are different ways to do it.
awesome. Well, Ms. Hemingway, thank you so much for coming on and
You're
speaking
welcome.
today. That wraps up our show today. hopefully you learned a little bit about why don't we hear from these elected officials until it's time for election. Part of it is that I think that they could find better outlets to inform the people, but the people also have the responsibility of also looking up and seeing what those elected officials are doing, actively doing, and supporting them and holding them accountable for the things that they said that they would do. So thank you for tuning in and have a good night.